We mash up bricks in the car, road block and right down
Get every lighters out and ready, cause here one non-stop fire. Roll.
This is Channel of We Rebuilding We, another production by Roadblock Prod MN of GGCTV.
We mash up bricks in the car, road block and right down
The air hung heavy with humidity. The streets of Whitestone, Queens, buzzed with the sounds of a city summer. Children's laughter echoed from stoops, music drifted from open windows. It was July 28, 1984. The night held no hint of the tragedy about to unfold. John F. Scarcella Jr. was heading home. He had just finished his shift. He worked for the city sanitation department, keeping the streets clean. A hard worker, a good man. He pulled up to his apartment building. His dark blue 1980 Buick Regal gleamed under the streetlights. He stepped out of his car, unaware, unprepared. Gunshots shattered the night. Multiple shots, head, chest. John Scarcella crumpled to the ground. His lifeblood stained the pavement. The assailant fled. A car screeched away. Silence descended, then screams. The investigation began immediately. Detectives swarmed the scene, questions, theories, confusion. Who would want John Scarcella dead? He was a quiet man, no enemies, no trouble. Then a glimmer, a terrible possibility, mistaken identity. The intended victim, police theorized, was someone else entirely. Someone who lived in the same building. Someone who drove a car almost identical to John's. A dark blue Buick Regal. The theory sent shockwaves through the investigation. John Scarcella, an innocent man caught in a web not meant for him, a life extinguished for a crime he had no part in, a case of being in the wrong place at the wrong time in the wrong car. John F. Scarcella Jr. was 28 years old. He lived with his parents. He was their only son, their world. He was a simple man, hardworking, dedicated. He took pride in his job. He kept the city clean. He had dreams, a family of his own, a future filled with possibilities. His friends and colleagues remembered him as a kind soul, always willing to lend a hand, a smile for everyone. He was a regular guy, a fixture in his neighborhood. He went to work, came home, spent time with his family. An ordinary life, filled with love and laughter, now silenced forever. The police focused their investigation on the intended target, a man who lived a double life. By day, he blended in, an unassuming neighbor, but by night, he walked a dangerous path. The world of illegal gambling. He owed a debt, a large sum of money, to dangerous people. Threats had been made. His life was in danger. The night of the shooting, he had left his apartment shortly before John Scarcella arrived. He returned hours later, after the police had come and gone. Coincidence? Or calculated evasion? The investigation delved into the murky underworld of gambling debts and the ruthless enforcers who collected them. The stakes were high, and lives were considered collateral damage. Had John Scarcella become an unwitting pawn in a deadly game? Section 5. Witnesses and whispers, pieces of a puzzle. Witnesses were scarce. The shooting had happened quickly, in the darkness. Some reported seeing a car speeding away, but descriptions varied, the darkness concealing as much as it revealed. Whispers circulated through the neighborhood, rumors of the intended target's gambling debts, his shady associates, and the possibility of mistaken identity. Fear choked the truth. People were afraid to talk, afraid of what they knew, and afraid of the consequences of speaking out. The police pieced together fragments of information, trying to separate fact from fiction. Each lead, a potential breakthrough. Each dead end, a blow to the hope of finding justice for John Scarcella. Section 6. The Buick Regal, a tragic link. The dark blue Buick Regal, an ordinary car, a symbol of American manufacturing, now a symbol of tragedy. Two cars, nearly identical, a fatal case of mistaken identity. John Scarcella's car, parked innocently outside his home, became his unwitting connection to a world he never knew. The make, the model, the year, the color, all played a cruel trick of fate, leading the killer to the wrong target, leaving John Scarcella to pay the ultimate price for a resemblance he could not control. Section 7. Justice eludes, the investigation stalls. Days turned into weeks, weeks into months. The investigation dragged on, leads went cold, witnesses clammed up. The weight of fear hung heavy in the air. The intended target lawyered up, remaining silent, citing his Fifth Amendment right. Frustration mounted, for the police, for John Scarcella's family, for a community demanding justice. The lack of answers gnawed at their souls, the knowledge that a killer walked free, that John Scarcella's death remained unavenged. Section 8. Echoes of Loss, a family shattered. John Scarcella's family was devastated, their world shattered. Their son, their brother, their friend gone, taken from them in a senseless act of violence. The pain was unbearable, a constant ache in their hearts. They struggled to comprehend, to make sense of the senseless. How could a case of mistaken identity lead to such a tragic loss? They clung to memories, to photographs, to the echo of his laughter in their home, their grief a testament to a life cut short. Section 9. A community remembers, a city grieves. John F. Scarcella Jr., whose death sent shockwaves through the community. It was a stark reminder of the fragility of life, of the random nature of violence, of the innocent lives caught in the crossfire. The streets of Whitestone, Queens, once filled with the sounds of summer, now carried a somber silence, a silence heavy with grief, with unanswered questions, with the knowledge that justice had eluded them. John Scarcella's name became synonymous with tragedy, a stark reminder of a life taken too soon. His story, a cautionary tale of mistaken identity and its devastating consequences, a story that continues to resonate, even as the years pass.
The city of Mount Vernon, New York is a place familiar with the rhythms of life, the laughter of children playing in parks, the chatter of neighbors catching up on sidewalks, the comforting hum of a community going about its day. But on March 9th, 2023, that rhythm was brutally interrupted, replaced by the piercing wail of sirens and a chilling silence that followed. 14-year-old Zaire Fernandez was gone, his life tragically cut short, leaving a void in the heart of his family and a community grappling with the senseless loss. Zaire, described by loved ones as a bright light with a contagious smile, was more than just a name in a news report. He was a son, a brother, a friend. His absence resonated deeply within the community, a stark reminder of the fragility of life and the devastating consequences of violence. As days turned into weeks and weeks into months, the investigation into Zaire's death unfolded, revealing a complex story of alleged confrontations, questionable choices, and the irreversible impact of a single, fatal gunshot. The name Philip Ferrell emerged, a man whose connection to Zaire, though indirect, would forever link their lives in a tragic narrative. The community held its breath, waiting for answers, for justice, for some semblance of closure in the wake of this devastating loss. And on January 16th, 2025, nearly 2 years after Zaire's passing, a courtroom in Mount Vernon became the stage for a long-awaited reckoning. The events leading up to Zaire's death remain shrouded in a degree of uncertainty, a tangled web of adolescent disagreements and escalating tensions. What is known is that on that fateful day, a confrontation occurred involving Zaire, Ferrell's nephew, and Tyrese Cogill, Ferrell's stepson. The details of this initial encounter remain unclear, but it is believed to have been the catalyst for the tragic events that followed. Later that day, the group encountered each other again. This time, Zaire and Ferrell's nephew were reportedly armed, one with a knife, the other with a gun. However, no physical altercation transpired at that time. Witnesses say that Ferrell then engaged in a heated argument with his nephew, retrieved his keys and jacket, and proceeded to his car. It was there, in the trunk of his vehicle, that a lockbox containing a gun was opened. Tyrese Cogill, who has since pleaded guilty to murder in connection with Zaire's death, testified that it was at this point that Ferrell uttered the chilling words, "Do what you gotta do." Moments later, a single gunshot rang out, forever silencing the young life of Zaire Fernandez. The scene was chaotic, a tragic blend of youthful bravado gone wrong and the devastating consequences of easy access to firearms. The image of that day, the fear in the eyes of witnesses, the echo of the gunshot, the life that was lost, would forever be seared into the minds of those who bore witness. a stark reminder of the fragility of life and the devastating consequences of violence. On that somber January day, as Philip Ferrell stood before the court, the weight of the charges against him, first-degree manslaughter, among others, hung heavy in the air. Despite his consistent denial of providing the gun used to kill Ziaer, the prosecution presented a compelling case, highlighting Cogill's testimony and the undeniable link between Ferrell and the murder weapon, which was later recovered from his possession. The courtroom listened intently as Ziaer's mother, Tara Williams, delivered a heart-wrenching victim impact statement. Tears streamed down her face as she spoke of her son's infectious laugh, his love for basketball, and the dreams that would now forever go unfulfilled. Her words, thick with grief and anger, painted a vivid picture of the immense loss her family had endured, a pain that no parent should ever have to experience. Arthur Edgerton, Ziaer's stepfather, echoed Williams's sentiments, his voice choked with emotion as he spoke of the shattered dreams and the unfillable void left by Ziaer's absence. Their words served as a poignant reminder that beyond the legal proceedings, beyond the charges and the verdict, lay a grieving family grappling with an unimaginable loss. After weeks of testimony, the jury reached a verdict, finding Ferrell guilty of first-degree manslaughter but acquitting him of second-degree murder. The courtroom was filled with a mix of emotions, relief, disappointment, and a lingering sense of sadness. While the verdict offered a degree of closure, it did little to alleviate the pain of Ziaer's absence. On January 16, 2025, Philip Ferrell was sentenced to 25 years in prison for his role in the death of Ziaer Fernandez. Tyrese Coyle, the young man who pulled the trigger, is expected to have his murder conviction reduced to manslaughter and receive a 15-year sentence in exchange for his cooperation in Ferrell's trial. While the legal proceedings have concluded, the emotional toll of that fateful day continues to reverberate. As the community begins to heal, questions linger about the events leading up to the shooting. What prompted the initial confrontation? Could the tragedy have been averted? While these questions may never be definitively answered, the case serves as a stark reminder of the devastating consequences of gun violence and the importance of conflict resolution. The tragic death of Ziaer Fernandez is a story that extends far beyond the confines of a courtroom. It is a story about the loss of innocence, the fragility of life, and the ripple effects of violence that extend outward, impacting families, communities, and society as a whole. As the city of Mount Vernon mourns the loss of Ziaer, it also grapples with the broader implications of this tragedy, searching for ways to prevent such senseless acts of violence from occurring in the future. The hope is that through education, awareness, and a commitment to peaceful conflict resolution, other families will be spared the unimaginable pain of losing a loved one to gun violence.